Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with senior political correspondent David Drucker. And David, GDP numbers this past week showed the U.S. has officially, by almost every definition, entered a recession. How can President Biden spin this? Obviously, the quibbling over the definition of a recession is already backfired. Where does Joe Biden go from here?
Right, I think it's a big mistake, and the administration got caught up in this. President Biden, his aides, other Democrats quibbling over the definition of a recession. Well, even if we have a second consecutive quarter of negative growth, economists say technically that's not really a recession, and that is the last thing you want to do politically when the economy is not doing well. It's perfectly fine for economists and academics and people at think tanks and congressional staffers and policy wonks to debate and try and determine what technically qualifies as a recession. But as a matter of politics, which means voters, the worst thing you can possibly do is tell them that something they're feeling or something they're fearing isn't actually happening. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to deliver a message that's all doom and gloom with no light at the end of the tunnel. But I think where President Biden and lots of Democrats have gotten themselves into political trouble, where they're already in political trouble because they're the party in charge, they're in the White House, and voters are going to hold them responsible, fairly or not, for a lot of the economic news and the pain that they're either feeling or fearing, is that they have essentially told voters, no, it's not as bad as you think. And what they should be doing instead, as a matter of politics, which means communicating to voters, is saying, I understand that you're hurting. I understand if you're not hurting that you're afraid you may be hurting. Now here are my solutions to try and ameliorate your pain and deal with your fear. And in the meantime, we're just going to work as hard as we can to try and get out of this as soon as possible. And then, by the way, you can blame Republicans. I have all these solutions. Those evil, mean guys, they don't want to help. Voters can deal with that. They may disagree with you, but they're fine with that. But telling them that they're not, what they're feeling or fearing isn't technically the definition of what they're feeling and fearing. I mean, I think they should dig up an old tape of Bill Clinton saying, I feel your pain, because it became a trite cliche over the years when we think about Bill Clinton, but it was really smart politics. I know you're hurting. I know you're afraid, and I get that, and that's what politicians need to say when people believe that things aren't going well.
If Biden stays the course, if he keeps, cherry picking economic data that suggests the recovery is still strong, he's harped, for example, a lot on the hot jobs market to say everything's fine. At what point do you think vulnerable Democrats start to sort of break with him on that economic messaging? I mean, at what point is it too costly to keep towing the Biden administration's line?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of district you're in or what your race is and what kind of race you are in, campaign you're in. So if you're in a gerrymandered Democratic district where, you've either gotten through your primary or all that matters is your primary, and you don't have to fear losing in a general election, I mean, you could stick with Biden as long as you want because you're not going to lose. If you're a swing district Democrat, if you're running in a swing state in a U.S. Senate race, if you're in a swing state running for governor, you need to drop that yesterday, and I think you'll probably see that. I don't think you'll see, for instance, Governor Gretchen Whitmer or Senator Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, towing that line. I think they're going to be much more nuanced at the very least about recognizing that people are either in trouble or feel like they're in trouble and focus on the solutions that they have that they, will say will fix things. And of course, you'll hear a lot from them what Republicans, in their view, are not doing to help affect these solutions to make people's lives better.
And finally, big picture view. We're in a recession, now just about 3 months out from the midterms. Is that it for Democrats? I mean, is there no way that they can overcome that sort of thing?
It was already it. I mean, when you look at, I don't even mean that glibly, but when you look at President Joe Biden's approval ratings under 40% on average, when you look at Democratic voters unhappy with him, the way they are, and generally, not that, thrilled with their leadership in Congress. Fair or not, their party doesn't have governing majorities. They have floor controlling majorities, but voters don't care about stuff like that. I just think it was always going to be hard to hold the line in the House with a 3, 4, 5 seat majority, hold the line in the Senate with a 50 seat majority that isn't even a majority, just because they have the vice president's tiebreaker. So I think the timing of this couldn't be worse. What we haven't seen yet are any potential layoffs that could be coming in the next 4 to 8 weeks as American corporations and small businesses react to this news and readjust their own budgets and hiring resources. So even if it is not their fault, look, we've seen this before, right, Sarah? Sometimes you get more credit than you deserve as a politician, sometimes more blame than you deserve. But the Democrats have a big problem. They control every branch of government but the Supreme Court, meaning they control lawmaking. And voters are holding them responsible. And that's just the way it is.
Well, David, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more reporting from David and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.